Hello and welcome back to Maski Learning with Maski TV and your own teacher, Teacher Tandy. Today we are moving a little bit away from what we have done last week, but we are still focusing on paper 2. So we are going to try and see where we're going to get marks when we have a paper 2 question that start on statistics, which is usually your first topic, right? So here it's your first question. So here what you need to know and understand, just your key focus area is the measure of central tendencies. You need to know how to get your mean, your median, and your mode. You also need to know where and how to calculate your measure of dispersion, which is range, interquartile range, semi-interquartile range variance, and standard deviation. Also, you need to know how to deal with the 5-number summary and where you find it from, which is normally when you have the data either grouped or ungrouped, that you have to also be able to actually throw the box and whisker if there's a possibility, or an ogive, which some call it ogive, and also know how to interpret that. Okay. The key important features here, as we have said, we do have the groups and ungrouped data, which you need to know what is the difference. So the group data is the data that they give you the intervals, and then the one is the ungrouped data is the one that just give you numbers. Okay. The graphics that we work with in your space in grade 11, it is histogram and cumulative frequency, which you call it ogive, and also we do have a box and whisker diagram, which is the one that is showing right here. Then again, you need to know how to deal with your skewiness. Is symmetrical if it's skewed right or left, but normally that is the distribution of the shape, which can be shown on the histogram, ogive, and as well as in the box and whisker diagram, right? When you deal with all these diagrams we're talking about, you need to also recognize your 5-number summaries. So your 5-number summary is just your minimum value, your Q1, which is the lower quantile or quantile 1, and also your Q2, which is your median, as well as Q3, which is your upper quantile, and you must know also the maximum value, which is the last value. So for you to deal with data appropriately, you need to order them from the smallest to the biggest in ascending order. You need to order them that way and make sure that when you order them like that, you can be able to literally count them, or you can find a way to calculate where you need to. Every time you draw a box and whisker, if you need to draw it, remember that it is drawn on a number line. You don't just draw it like that. It has to be on the number line, and the number line need to be spaced equally. So you need to also adhere to the rules of how we draw a number line or a Cartesian plane, where the distance in between numbers still must be the same. Meaning that you can't have 21 and you have 30 and then you have 31. It has to have the same distance in between. Okay. So here when you have your box and whisker, it also help us to identify the numbers that are given. For example, I know that my minimum number is 22 and my maximum number is 28. Just by looking at that. It can also help us to see how we're calculating our interquartile range as well as range. So to calculate range, we just use the maximum and then we subtract the maximum at the minimum from the maximum. So that is another formulas that you need to know. Range, we say it's a maximum value minus a minimum value, while interquartile range, we say the third quarter minus the first quarter. So that is how you calculate the quantile or the ranges there. Another formula that is very, very important, it's the mean. So a mean formula, you just have to always remember it's an X with a line. Excuse me. It's an X with a line, and that is equals to the sum of all the numbers that are given. In this case, is the sum of xi, which just means that you have x, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, just like that, divide by n, right? And n is then the number of values in the data. If they give you 10 people that are doing something, that is where you'd say n will be equals to 10, right? Then the sum of the data set, it is you going to be adding all those 10 numbers if there is 10 numbers. So you add them together for you to get the sum. So that's why we call it a sum of the data set, right? So that is what you need to know. Let's see. So without wasting time, I think we have done most of the summaries. Yes, there's standard deviation, there's variance and how you calculate that. We're going to show it to you. But when we are busy doing that and we are trying to get to this, let us try and practice some questions from previous question paper. At this point, we have a question paper of 2018, which have a lot of questions in statistics, and I need you to just try get that. If you don't have the question paper, therefore, I need you to then look at this or take a screenshot. While you take a screenshot, we'll be settling down. Those who have the question paper with them, we're going to use the question paper along, and then we make sure that we do those questions together. Remember, this is a doing subject. You can't do it if you're not going to pass. If you don't do, you just listen. As you listen, you must be writing it down somewhere. So let's tune in and come back right after break to try and do this together. Okay, I'm very sure we are now ready. So let's hit the ground without wasting time. So we do have this question, so we have to just read it and understand what they need us to do. Let's see. As school held a sports day, one of the items of the program was an obstacle race. And then we have team of 10 parents and learners participated in this race. So I've highlighted the 10 because this 10 means something, and I can just label that as my N. That is going to be my number of data set, right? Then the parents and the learners in this red, so the table below then show the time taken. So they're actually highlighting that this is a time that is taken, but the time taken by individuals, which we have said that they are 10. So this case, we know that this is 4 minutes, 12 minutes, up until 25 minutes, depending on the person. So when we respond to the question, now we have analyzed what we have. Let's go. They said, how long in minutes did it take for the fastest learner or member of this team to complete the race? Right? How long in minutes, which is here, did it take the fastest member to complete the race? So even though they are saying how long, which sounds like it's a very long time, we also look at the longest or the fastest person will always take the shorter time to reach the space. Those who run, they would know. So that means we're going to have what? We have 4, right? So they use 4 minutes to run faster. So the faster one have only run in 4 minutes. So that's what you're going to write, and then they give you your mark, right? That's 1 mark. So that is literally just going to be 1 mark of saying 4 minutes. Okay, let's check the second one. The second one says that determine the mean time taken by this team. So you need to then determine what the mean. We did say that when you're looking for mean, you have to say X with the line equals to the sum of all the numbers that are data set divided by the total number of the data. So in this case, our sum is going to be 4 plus 12 plus 13, and you add them all together until you add 25. So in your space, you'll be adding them all until you reach that, and that will give us the answer. If you use your calculator there, you will see the 4 plus 12 plus 13 plus 25 plus all those values that we have here, they're literally going to give us, let's see, 169, right? So it's going to be 169 divided by 10, which is our data set. And if you use your calculator, you will then get the answer as 16.9 minutes. So that's what we're going to do, or that's how you're going to respond to the question. And that was 2 marks. So 1 mark will go either for substitution or the method you have used. If you did jump this step there, you just went and write 169 divided by 10, then that's where the mark will go. And then the other mark will therefore go to your answer. So it is very important that when you say 2 marks, you at least give us 2 steps, right? Don't just go and give us the answer like that. Yes, in some cases we can mark it, but if a mistake has happened, nobody would know what happened and how you did it. So as you practice, please try and write your answers as clear as possible to ensure that the markers can understand what you are writing. Okay. Then we have 1.3. In 1.3, we are then asked to calculate standard deviation. So calculating standard deviation, we have a formula as well. So I will just show how you're going to do it, and you can do that. I'll do just one question, and then you can do the standard deviation. Okay, so our n was 10 there, which is we are on the same space. Let's see. So for the third one, when they say calculate the standard deviation, we're going to just use the formula of standard deviation. So standard deviation is calculated. You can use your calculator, you can use your table format, or you can do what is possible for you to do to get into the standard deviation. So to calculate standard deviation, we use that formula of a variance first, and a variance will then be equals to, then if you write it like that, this is a variance, it's a standard deviation with a square root. So we just put a square root out of it. But for the variance to calculate it, therefore, what you need to do is you just say sum of x minus the mean, which is the mean you have already calculated, and then we square that, then all of it will divide by n. We are still using the same n, which is 10, and we are using the mean that we have, which is 16.9. In a usual cases, you just put an I here, so you can be able to separate your xi, which means the x numbers that you have. In this case, will be all the numbers that you are given into the space. So if you use your calculator, this is what you are going to do. You're just going to press, if you press mode, if your calculator have mode, and you go to stats, which in this one I'm having it's number 2, then there's a place where it says var, 1/var, which is VAR, like I put it here, but in capital letter. Then you can press that, and it will give you a table. Then you can just go in and insert these numbers. So when you're putting numbers, you just have to say equal sign, which allows you to insert. This might be one calculator, and others can have a different format, but you just have to find a way. Also, most calculators, or the one that I've ever used, on their covers, they always put how to calculate this statistical thing. So you can go through it, and then you can be able to get your solutions there. Even if they're repeating, like here we have 22 and 22, you always just put them together because they're all different numbers. So please don't leave another one and you say, I already have done 22. All of them need to be like that, so you need to make sure that you add, right? You put them all. And then after you are done with that, you have entered all your data, you can just go in this calculator. I can just say shift, and then I say stats, then to give you many, many things. And then you can check your variation again. When you do that, it should give you the answers, right? So that is one of the way to do. And then the other way is you can literally use a table if your calculator doesn't allow. But for the one that use a table, I always advise to do that if the marks are many. If it's only 1, 2 marks, then the calculator is fine for you to use. But you have more marks like 4 or 3, try to do as many as you can. Because what this means, therefore, it just means that you need to keep on putting values that you subtract them together. So let me show you. If I had my table, I would just say have my xi, which is my data. In this case, it's the 4, is the 12, is the 13, the 16, until I reach the 25. So those will be my first row. And then the second one, I can then just put the lines so that we have it nicely done. So I can show you, and you can go complete the table wherever you are at your own time. So that is it. We can do that. And then here I can write my xi minus x. So this part, I'm trying to calculate all the x's minus the mean, I mean to say. So the first one I'm going to say, like say 4 minus 16,9. Then I'll get the answer, right? So you can calculate it like that, or you can literally just use it on a calculator and you write just the answer there. So that's what I was just showing there for you to know that you need to calculate there. And then on this column, I'm going to put it with an equal sign, with a square root, with a square, I mean to say. So bracket as it is there, bracket xi minus the mean, and then we put a square. If I put it that way, then we start calculating. You can be able to see. For example, the first one, I would have 4 minus 16,9, which gives me a negative 12,9 on this column. But if I put a square around it, I will then get it as 166,41. So this is what I will be doing for all of them until I get to the last one, and then I can get to the answer. But this is another way of doing it. The quicker way of doing this is for you to use your calculator. And if you use your calculator properly, then you're going to find the answer to be equals to 5,79. So that means that your standard deviation, which is what we're looking for, we can just write it as SD. It's actually approximately or equals to 5,79. Okay, let's remove that. So it's equals to 5,79. So we can write it like that. So that is going to be our standard deviation. I hope you guys have understand that, and you can be able to use either your calculator or your table to make sure that you can respond to that question properly, right? So that is one of the way, or one of the questions that always come, and in most cases you come with 3 marks. Only here they just put 1 mark for some reason we all don't know, but that is what we have here, right? So how many members of the team completed the obstacle race outside of 2? So this one you need to try and read it properly, because it says outside of 2 standard deviation. Sometimes it will tell you outside of 1 standard deviation, or instead of saying outside, they will say away from 1 standard deviation or away from 2 standard deviations. You just have to remember that. So if they say outside or inside, it's more like away or within, right? So you just have to look at for those words. So they are saying a race outside of 2 standard deviation of the mean. So what is it that we need now? You just need to capture your mean. If you can remember it, we said mean is 16.9. Let's just check it. We said the mean is 16.9. Yes, we are correct. So we said mean is 16,9, right? And we said that our standard deviation is 5,79. Yes, we are right. So it's 5,79. In this question, the mean and the standard deviation are very important for us to work with it. But how do we then do that? We are actually going to say, if I have the interval that I'm talking about, the range or the interval should have the mean subtract the standard deviation. So this is how you actually write it down, but I'm going to show you how you calculate it therefore. So if this is the question, what you know is you have the mean, you have your standard deviation, and as I said, your important part is that you have the 2 here. So this 2 standard deviation is actually within, right, the 2 standard deviation as we are saying. So we have that. In this case, we are saying that we have the mean minus the standard deviation will be our lower range. So that's how we write it. And then our upper range will be the mean plus the standard deviation. Always just write this like that so that you can remember where is what coming from. There is no formula sheet that will be provided to you in any formulas, but you need to remember when they talk about away from standard deviation, within standard deviation, and you need just to use those ones, right? So let's calculate. When you are calculating here, you just have to remember that this is the formula we have, but the fact that they said there's 2, so that 2 standard deviation or outside 2 standard deviation forces us to come and write 2 before the standard deviation because they say there's 2 standard deviations. Hence, you see here, I came and highlighted the 2 so that you can be able to see, right? Okay, so let's go and check. Here, the mean is 16,9 minus 2 multiplied by the standard deviation, which is 5,79. So that's our first part. Then the second one, or the upper part, will be the similar thing, but now we are adding 6,9 plus 2 multiplied by 5,79. And then we put our bracket, right? So this all, if you multiply it properly with your calculator, you would see that your lower part gives you 5.32. Please, let's check. So 16,9 minus 2 multiplied by 5,79, that gives us 5,32. Remember the brackets and our semicolon. Then on our upper hand, we have 16,9 plus 2 multiplied by 5,79, and that gives us 28,48. So this is what we have. But the question was saying, what is it that we are looking for? How many members of the team have completed their obstacle race outside these 2 standard deviations? So if we go back to our information that we had, or at the beginning where you had your table, this is the information we are talking about. So if we look at it, you can see that the number that is before or less than 5.32, it's actually only one number, which is 4. So if you check, you will see that 4 is the one that is less than the number that we had here as 5,32. And then do we have any number that is more than 28,48 in here? No, we don't. So all this that is after here, meaning that that is not part of the solution. So to answer that, we're just going to have, we have only 1, right? So we have 1 in the answer there. We'll say, therefore, there's only 1 member that have completed the obstacle race. So there's only 1 member, and you can actually go on and then explain that the 1 member is actually the one that have used 4 minutes, right? So there's 1 member that completed the obstacle race. So you can write that, completed the obstacle race, or just the race, right? So that is that is your answer there, which you can write. Or you can just also say that is 4 minutes of the member, or the member that is 4 minutes, which is literally the member that we have been talking about all this time. And I'm very sure that with these questions, you guys have seen, we have 1 more. Let's see. Okay, so this is how many members. Okay, let's check the last one. Excuse me. The last one, it took another team a total time of X plus 5. Remember when we were talking about this team, which we can call it team A, for us to just have, for argument's sake, we can just call this one team A, the first one. So the total time of team A was 169, if you remember. So the total time, we can just say total time of team A was 169 minutes, which is this one. Now we are told that it took another team a total time of X plus 5 minutes. So now we know that the total time of team B, which is another team, is given to be X plus 5, right? And they said that calculate the value of X if the overall mean of the two teams combined was 18 minutes. So now we have the total time, but this is not the mean, right? So their total mean, combine them. When you have the mean, two of them, you're going to have it as 18. So we can just say combined mean equals 18, right, like that. Then from there, you can then calculate your mean. So now you have all that you need with all this, the information that you need to have or you already have. Then we can calculate that. So the total A is equals to 169. So that's what we have. Then when you come here, if you check here on our calculations, you can actually see what we have done from the combined mean to there. But I'm going to show you how we then calculate it, right? So for this one, we're going to have our 169 plus the X plus 5. So we can put this in the bracket. And all of this, because now we have team 1 and we have team 2, team A and team B. For all of them to become a team, they need to have the same number of members, which means they all have 10 members. That means we're going to have 20 in total, right? But this all is equals to 18. That is what was given to us. Then we can start working it out and try to get to the solution. So let's solve for X as the question needed us to solve for X. So here for me to take away the 20, I'll have to multiply by the 20 both sides of our equation. So if I multiply by 20, this 20 and that 20 will divide. Then I had 169 plus X plus 5 equals to 18 multiplied by 20. That will be 360. Then we are looking for X. Remember, every time you look for X, you have to remove everything that is with X. But maybe we can start by doing the like terms of 169 and the 5, right? So let's first start there. We can just add the 2. Then we have X plus, what is 169 plus 5? That is going to be 174, which is equals to 360, right? So let's move the 174. So we have 174 equals 360. You guys can do your calculations. So if I subtract 174 on the left, I must also do it on my right side. So that X will be equals to, so 360 minus 174 will actually give me 186, right? So that's how I would have calculated then the X value from this equation. And that's what they wanted us to do. So you need just to try and explore and see these questions like this and do many, many more like this ones, which can actually help you to answer the questions properly. They look like they are, every time you look at them, they look like they are very simple. But as you practice, you'll be able to see how easy and quick you can actually respond to these questions, right? So as you are busy trying to consolidate that, I would want you to then look at our second part of the question, which is still from the same question paper that you can download, and then we can be able to then work through it together, because the lessons today is to ensure that at the end of the day, you understand on what it is that you need to do for you to respond to statistics. Stay tuned. Yes, so we are still here again. Let's see. If you had then that question, or I need you to just take this picture because this will move it. If you don't have a question paper, just take a picture. We're going to keep on moving and coming back. But before we can move, we need to analyze what we have and write it down. Ensure that whatever we are talking about, we have it already, right? So here we are told that it's a survey was conducted of the age of players at a soccer tournament. The results are shown in this cumulative frequency graph, which we call it an ogive. So that is our ogive there, which shows the, I literally just call it ogive. People will call it ogive because I feel like it's a jiving kind of a graph. So that's how I describe my ogive. So there you have all the labels that need to be done, but need to pay attention that this is cumulative frequency. It's not frequency. So some frequency were accumulated to make it some sort of a bulk kind of frequencies, right? So at the horizontal, we have our age of the soccer. So let's analyze it together. We have the age, but we know that if this is the case, then that means that at 15, that is where we have the highest age. And also we know that at 40, that is where we have that 15, we have the starting age. And then at 40, we have the highest one, right? Another thing is we need to know what is the number. If we're talking about n, for example, number of data set, you would know it from the cumulative frequency because the last number that is on the cumulative frequency, but that same number should be able to reflect into the diagram of the ogive, right? So in this case, 50 is our last number, then that makes 50 our n. That is the data set. Okay. I hope with that you have understood and we can be able to move. So look at this question, first one. How many players took part in the soccer tournament? So I always tell my children, if you have an ogive or any other diagram and you have analyzed it properly, I guarantee you have already responded to the first question. And this is evident. You can see here. We just have found that 50 is our n, meaning it's the number of players. Then we go to the first question. They say, how many players took part in the soccer? That is obvious, right? We have done it previously. We have done that. So we know that the first question, therefore, 2.1.1, that answer will be 50 players. Very easy. There's no way you can get that 1 mark, no matter what, because you have done your analysis appropriately, right? Determine the number of players between the age of 24 and 31 years old. So let's see. We are talking about the age of 24 and the age of 31. So let's first go back to our diagram and see where that is. So if you look at this properly, where is 24? So we can count this as 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically 24 is, if you use your ruler, you can be able to find that 24 is here, right? So that's where I've put my dot. And then again, you have 31. You can do the same, you just go count. So these boxes that are in the grid, they're actually telling you the numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it's have been divided. So here, if you move from 31 and then you go up with this line like I'm doing until you reach here, you can see that's where the 31 is. But please bear in mind or take note, you cannot just say, okay, I have 24, then that's my answer. What is the answer? For you to get to what you are looking for or the number of people, you need then to move to your horizontal side until you reach the cumulative line. So the cumulative frequency line here, where there's 24, it is 10. So now we know where is 24, we have 10, right? Again, you do the same for 31. You just go stand there and you put your ruler. If you move it properly like that in there, you will see that it takes you to 40. So you're going to say, where there's 31, I then have 40. Right. So for us to answer the question, as they have said, we need to then have to just say 40 minus 10. That will give us 30. So what does that mean? That means that we only have 30 players, or determine the number of players between this age. So we have 30 players that are between those two ages. So we have 30 players between 24 and 31. So that's how you get to that. You can actually just read it out, or you can write it down. You can actually see that by calculations or reading from the graph. So sometimes the question will come and forces you to read from the graph. So even if it didn't, please practice so that you know how to read from the graph. It's very easy, but you need to practice for you to be able to do it properly. Okay. Now, let's go to the third one. Complete the frequency column of the table. So you can say this is the column we are talking about. So to complete this column, what is it that we need to do? I always say you can start anywhere, but I feel it easier when you start at the bottom up. So how are you going to do it, or what are you going to do there? You're literally just going to start by subtracting the numbers until you reach up. So always the first one, you will just stick to the number that is given, which is, so you can do that and say, okay, how many numbers I'm going to add to get 13? You put that. What is the number to add to get? You can do that, move it like that, or you can go upward and say, okay, for me to get the number here, I need to say 50 minus 47, for which I will get the 3, like that. So you can go either way, from bottom down, or from down, or from up, from up bottom, or from bottom up, like that. So you can say here 47 minus 37, that should give us a 10. And then we are here where there's 37 minus 13, that should give us a 24. And then we have where we are saying 13 subtract 4, that would give us a 9. So when I add these numbers, I should be able to find 50. And you can do a quick check, because when I add this, they must give me this. So the addition of 4 and 9 literally is giving me 13. And the addition of 9 and 24 must give me 37, just like that. So that's how you actually determine the numbers. I hope you guys have found that and you can be able to deal with it properly. So that's how you can respond to the questions. Just remember that at the end, you need to add these frequencies together, and they must give you the total number, which in this case, our total number is 50. Okay. Now we are told to use a particular grid, which you will have the answer book. So they say use a grid to then draw a frequency polygon for the data. So the time you hear, or the moment you hear the word polygon, just remember that is no longer an ogive, but that is going to be then a dot or point kind of the number. So you can come and you can create another table here, and then you start calculating them properly. It's either you create that table and then you calculate your values properly, or you can just, they will give you another one. Since they are giving you questions, they would have given you another one. So we can quickly do that together here by the corner there, and then we use our calculators to get to the answer. But the question will be then, what is it that I'm writing? Okay, so they said that is frequency polygon. You can just come and write them here and call it a FP. In this case, I'm just saying FP for frequency polygon, or you can call it a point, right? Then how do we get them? We literally have to say just 15 plus 20 divide by 2. So that's how you get the answer there. So you do for each and every interval. So you take your intervals, you add them together, you divide it by 2, and that is the answer, or the point that you are going to have, which in this case, it's 17.5. Then you do that to all of them until you get to the answer. It's not really a train smash. It's something that you can do for you to end up there. So you can see here, for example, they have shown how you calculate your frequency, which is the value that we just headed there. So we had all these values. You can see this is how they are correct, right? Then here you just calculated there 17.5, which is also correct. So this is what we said, it's 17.5. Then you can keep on doing that until you get to the answers. But because they want us to draw the graph, that means you're going to take then your frequency against your class midpoint. They are calling it midpoint because that is actually how you calculate the midpoint. If you remember very well, this is how we calculate the midpoint of any given 2 points, right? So if you have 2 points, to find the midpoint, you just divide it by 2. And that's how we calculate it here. Okay. I hope you guys have captured this and you can be able to deal with that. So let's see if we use the 2 and now we are drawing the graph. That's how the graph is drawn. If you remember very well, on the graph there's many numbers. So they go and just put all those points the way they are. Then after putting the points, you then join, right? You then join. So you can just do a quick check. You say, okay, where am I going to find my 3 and 37.5, for example? Then you can just go there and say, okay, this is where my 3 is, and that is where my frequency, which is 37.5, will be. So that's how they point them out. So you put your frequency against those edges that we are going to have, and you draw your polygon properly. So a polygon is not like an ogive, but it's a point connected together for which you just put the lines to get to your answer. I hope you guys have seen that as well, and you can be able to therefore use the information that you had from the beginning up until there to be able to draw that. So as you are drinking water for this one, I need you to look at this, which is more like a consolidation kind of the question, and I am not going to move away. I'm just gonna give you 2 seconds while I'm here for you to just read, because for you to get it right, you need to somehow read it before I can even talk to it. So if you can read it properly for us, and then we can do a quick wrap up together. So let's see. You have 5 seconds to complete. Okay, I guess you guys have put down what you need to have. So with that being said, let's read together. Then you have read it, let's do it again. So we have 2 grade 11 mathematics classes have the same number of learners. So we can say, so this means that we have the same number of learners with 5 number summaries. If you remember the 5 number summary we spoke about of the marks obtained by these classes. So class A and class B have their 5 number summary written down, but then the parents of the learners in class A and class B observed that both classes have the same median and also the same maximum number. So our median here will be both 65, and then our maximum number will both be 90. That's what they said. So they are claiming that there's nothing different. Their performance is the same, no different there. So do you agree or you don't with the argument? Right, so you need to take your argument, but you have to take it with reasoning statistically. You can't just say no and then you say, I just thought so. It's no, but why? It's yes, but why, right? So yes, I would say no, I don't agree with the statement. The reason being, if you look at this, you see that the first number that we have there, it's actually 30. And if we have 30 on the first one, then the other one have 50. That is a flag, right? Also, the second one, you can see there's 48 and there's 58. That is the difference. That will definitely causes the differences in between the two. So you can actually use these numbers to calculate some sort of a range, and that can help you to see the dispense. So from the examination, they did say that the claim is not valid, but the range therefore for A is 60 and the range for B is 40. That is a huge difference, as we said, and that shows that the class A is bigger than the range on class A is bigger than the range on class B, and therefore that means that the marks therefore of A is more spread out in the class than the one of B. You can say that, or you can literally use the percentages that you have. So that's how you can respond to the question. I never just go and leave you alone. Every time when I talk to you, I do have a solution for your problems. That's why I have my platinum with me, which is this question is nicely explained there for examination purposes, and you can literally just go to it and page 313 and more. So you can find many questions there in this book. There's many of other books that you can also use. We have our X-Kit, we have our classroom maths, we have our what do we call it? We have X-Kit Classroom Maths Platinum. We have the Crack the Maths Code, which is our new series that you can actually check and find these questions. They will help you because they were done for education and also for examination kind of questions. So please try and check that while you are busy trying to get that together. Also, you can keep on following and checking on Maski. If Maski can be able to help you, because he can. So you just ask Maski for more help while you are practicing for all your questions, to give you step-by-step solutions, how you're going to respond to it. It's like we would have done. And remember to tune in and follow us on Maski TV for more videos and more live sessions with you. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and you will have to continue enjoying your life as you learn maths. See you next week. Bye.
And now we enter our next exciting chapter with the launch of Maskiverse, an inspiring trio of innovations, our AI-powered learning companion, captivating TV content, and a vibrant playground for interactive learning, and our own dedicated app, all coming together beautifully to deliver learning outcomes through technology.